Hello guys, once again welcome to our YouTube channel Edu Hub, and as you know, this part 4 of Phython programming beginners to expert. And guys, as you know how much important is this course for today's world, so please don't forget to subscribe and share to your friends and family members. And also guys, you notice how long is video going, because this course is so difficult to explain that why video is that much long, and after this video you will become professional in Phython programming. So please like our video, and without wasting time, let's get started. Phython Programming Beginners to Expert Part 4.
So in this tutorial, I'll be talking about functions and function arguments in Python. So we have actually discussed about general functions and what functions are actually used for before, but I'll actually briefly explain what functions are and how we actually use them, and then we'll actually discuss about arguments in function. So functions are actually used when we want to execute a same block of code multiple times. So if we want to actually execute something like print hello world multiple times in your program, maybe in this program, in maybe different files of the same program, you can actually do that with functions in Python. So say for an example, I need to actually print this hello world in different parts of this program, or in other parts of the same program. I can actually pass this to a function. So I actually do that by saying def, and I'll say greet or something, and then I'll actually pass this under this, and now we can actually access this in different parts of the same program. So to actually access this function, you have to actually call it, and we do that by actually saying greet, and this is how we actually execute the function. So if we just run the program, we can see that hello world has been printed. And if I just don't execute this, or if I just don't call this, and if I just run this, nothing will be printed or nothing will be executed, because we haven't actually called that function. We can also pass in arguments as inside a function. For example, I can actually take a name here. I'll say name. So I can actually pass in arguments like this. So I say name here, and then instead of printing out hello world, we can actually use the formatted strings, and we can actually, I'll say hello name. So now whenever we actually execute this function, we have to give this name parameter here. So this can be anything. So inside quotes, I'll say John, and if I run the program, it says hello John. And if you actually don't specify this argument and run the program, you'll get an error saying it is missing one required positional argument called name. So you have to actually specify this. So this is how a function works. So you can actually pass in arguments and different things to a function. So now we have actually discussed about function. Now let's actually see how to pass arguments to function. So let's assume that I have a function here called function, func, I'll say func, and then I'll take in 3 arguments, a, b, and c, and then we actually have to print this a, b, and c out, and we'll print all these 3 of them, and we can actually execute the function while saying func, and we have to specify the values for a, b, and c. We can either do this way, we can actually pass in the values, and if I run the program, it will actually print out 1, 2, and 3. And we can also do this by specifying keyword arguments. By that I mean, we can actually say a is equal to 1, and I can actually say b is equal to 2, and I can say c is equal to 3. So now actually, while specifying arguments like this, by specifying it as keyword arguments, we can actually specify it in any order. So for example, I can actually bring the b here, and I can actually say c is equal to 3 or whatever I want, because we are actually specifying what is what. So we can actually run this and we'll still get the same result. But if you don't specify this, if you simply say 1 2 3, it will be printed in the order you actually executed it. So here the first position is considered A, and the second one B, and third one C. So if you want to actually specify, if you want to actually use the keyword arguments, then this need not be in the any order. You can do it in whatever way you want. So one thing you have to actually note is you cannot pass arguments after keyword arguments. So for example, I cannot actually say a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, and after that, instead of specifying c is equal to some number or something, you cannot actually simply give it a number here. And if I just run this, this will actually return an error saying it follows keyword argument. So you cannot actually specify an argument after a keyword argument. So in order to actually fix this, you can actually say c is equal to, and that will be fixed. Now you can also pass in some default value for some items. So for example, I can say d is equal to 4 or 5 if I want. So now here there is no need to actually specify, or there is no need to specify a value for d, because we have already specified it here. So if I run this program, it will actually complete without any error. But if we just want to modify the value of d just in case, you can actually do that by saying d is equal to maybe 7 or whatever you want. In this case, okay, we have to actually print d out as well. So now if we just run this, you can see that it has been printed, and even if you remove it, it's not a big deal because we have a default value for that, and that default value will be printed if you just don't specify any other values. Now we are actually going to discuss about args and quarks in Python. So we don't need this anymore. So I can actually define a function. I can actually define a function called function, and we'll pass in some arguments just like before, and along with this we are going to pass the args and quarks argument. So I can actually say after an asterisk you can say args, and with double asterisks you can say quarks. Now this args and quarks can be anything. You can actually say see here, and it's actually the same thing, but usually this is actually mentioned to as args and quarks. And so what are these actually used for? So why are we actually supplying these args and quarks here? So the answer is, now we can actually pass infinite number of arguments or keyword arguments. By infinite I mean we can pass in any number of arguments we want actually. So for example, I'll print a and b here in this case, and if I just execute this function, and I'll say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 and or whatever numbers you want, and if we just run this, you can see that we didn't get an error because we used args method here. So now we can actually pass in any number of arguments. The same applies for quarks. So now we can actually pass in any number of keyword arguments as well, but make sure that you need this a and b. This a and b is necessary. Now we can actually say maybe we can pass in any number of keyword arguments. So I can say maybe 1 is equal to 5, 6 is equal to 6, or whatever. These are called keyword arguments. So now we can actually pass any number of them and you'll not get any errors. So now just to print out this as well, so we'll say for arg in args, we'll print out the args arg, and now we also have to print out the quarks. So we'll say quark, or we'll say for key in quarks, because this is actually a dictionary, so we need to actually access the key value. We'll say print quark, or key in this case. So now if we just run this program, you can see that it has actually been printed out. So that is the use of args and quarks. With args and quarks, you can actually pass in any number of arguments or keyword arguments. So next, we are actually going to talk about forced keyword arguments. So let's remove this. Sometimes you only want keyword arguments, so you can actually force to use that. So to actually do that, let me declare a function here called function, and I'll pass in some arguments a, b, and after that I'll pass in an asterisk and then c and d. Now let's print a, b. Now let's also print c and d out. Now if I just want to execute this function, I can specify a and b just like this, but everything after this asterisk symbol has to be a keyword argument. So I cannot simply say 3 and 4. That will be an error. PyCharm is already indicating that it's an error. So we have to actually pass this as a keyword argument. So I'll have to say c is equal to 10 maybe, and then d is equal to 11 or whatever you want. Now this will be executed. If I just simply specify this, it will actually surely return an error. PyCharm is already indicating it as an error. And we are actually getting some kind of error saying we should only pass in 2 arguments. So this is how we can actually use forced keyword arguments. We can force the users to actually use keyword arguments. Now let's talk about unpacking of functions. So I have a function here. It accepts 3 parameters a, b, and c, and then it actually prints out a, b, and c. And now if we just execute the function, I can actually say function executed, and now actually instead of passing in the arguments directly here, I can pass in a list as an argument. So for example, let me say I have a list called li, and I can pass in arguments like 1, 2, 3, and now I can actually pass this list as an argument. This is called unpacking of functions. So I can actually say asterisk and then li. So this is how we do it. And now if we just run this program, you can see that 1, 2, and 3 has been actually accepted as the values for this a, b, and c. So now you just have to make sure that the number of elements inside this list is actually equal to the number of arguments here. So if I pass in an extra argument, and if we just run the program, that will actually take us to an error. We'll get an error saying we only have to pass in 3 positional arguments, but we actually passed in 4. So we have to just make sure that we pass in only the equal number of arguments. Now we can also do the unpacking of dictionaries. So instead of list here, I can actually say my dictionary, and I'll just pass in a dictionary here, and I'll say a is 1, and I can say b is 2, and I can also say c is 3. C. I have to close this here, and now if I say c is 3. So now instead of passing in the list, I can pass in the dictionary. And in dictionary we have to actually make sure we pass in 2 asterisks because these are keyword arguments. So now if I just run this program, you can see that 1, 2, 3 has been printed successfully. We are able to pass in dictionary as arguments, and this is called unpacking of functions. Now let's actually discuss about global and local variables inside a function. So I can actually define a function here similar to before. So now I'm not actually passing in any arguments here. So now before actually doing anything inside a function, I'll actually come here and I'll say number is equal to 10. I can set a value or a variable called number and set its value to 10. So now I can actually access that number variable. I can actually say x is equal to number, and then if I just print and if I just print x, and now if we just execute the function, okay, so I have actually declared the number 10 above this, and now I just have to say x is equal to number, and if I just print x and run the program, you can see that x is equal to 10 gets printed. But we can only view the number, we cannot actually modify the number because this is actually not inside this function, and this is actually a global variable. So we cannot just modify it. I cannot just say number is equal to 11. Maybe here, if I just say number is equal to 11 here, and I run the program, you can see that this has been modified. So now if I just say number is equal to 11, and I just execute the function and print the value for number, I just run the program, you can see that the first value, that is the function, executed and printed the value of x, which is 11. So the number value has been modified, but the original number value which was inside this entire program, this value here, has not been modified. It is still 10. So how do we fix this? So in order to actually modify this globally, we have to use the global keyword. So I'll just come here and I'll say global number, and now we are actually accessing this number variable, and now we have actually modified the value to 11, and now let's see what both of them actually prints. If we run the program, we can see that both of them have been modified and both of them are 11 now. So a local variable is something that is inside a function and can be modified or accessed inside a function, and global variables can be accessed everywhere inside the program. So in this tutorial we'll be talking about the asterisk operator in Python. So this operator here, so this is actually used for various purposes in Python. So let's actually see some of them. We have already discussed many of them. We'll just revise through this and we'll see the different use cases for this asterisk operator. So starting out, we'll actually look at some basic operations. For example, we can use the asterisk operator to multiply elements. So for example, I can say C is equal to 9 multiplied by 9, and now if I just print out C, and if I just run this program, you can see that the result 81 has been printed. So you can actually use them to print or to actually find the multiplication table, and now you can also use them to square things. So for example, I can say SQ is equal to 2 square 2. So yeah, this should be a little bit confusing, so I'll say 5 square 5. So now if I just print SQ, it has actually multiplied 5 times. So something like this, it should be 5 into 5 into 5 into 5 into 5 into 5. So yeah, this thing here can be done with this asterisk operator. So now you can also create lists using the asterisk operators. So say for an example, I want a list with 5 zeros. So so I can actually say zeros is equal to, I can actually say 0. So now if I just want to print out the zeros, I can say zeros is equal to I need a list of 5 zeros, and now if I just print this out, I get a list with 5 zeros. So now if I actually add a 1 here and run the program, we get a list with 5 zeros and 5 ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros and then 5 ones. So these are some basic use cases. So you can also do the similar thing with strings. So if I actually say letters is equal to, and I can actually say maybe AB multiplied by 10. If I just print the letters out, and I run the program, we can see that AB has actually been printed out 10 times. These are some of the basic operations you can actually do with asterisk operators. Now you can also do some other things. We have actually discussed about things like args and quarks, where you actually use the asterisk operator. So I'll define a function here called func. We have actually seen similar things before. I would just like to highlight asterisk operator here. So we are actually passing in some arguments like a, b, and we are actually using args and quarks here. We have actually discussed what these are before. You can actually take a look at those parts if you want to know more about them. So now actually we'll print all the args. So just for a basic understanding, args and quarks, this will actually let us print or accept as many arguments and keyword arguments as we want. So we'll say for arg, in args, we'll just print args. We'll print out arg, and we'll do the same with quark. So we'll say for key in quarks, and I'll say print the key. So now I can actually run this function with any number of arguments and keyword arguments I want. So I'll have to specify a and b here. So I can say a and b here, and then after that I can specify any number of arguments or keyword arguments as much as I want. So for specify keyword arguments, I can actually say 1 is equal to 1. This is how we actually specify. This is how we pass keyword arguments. Now we are actually accepting numbers here, so we can say 2. If you just don't pass the quarks here, this will actually print out an error saying that you haven't actually specified these arguments aren't required, but you have actually passed them. You'll get such an error. So now since we actually have said args and quarks here, we can actually pass in any number of arguments as much as we want. So the asterisk operator is actually used with args and quarks. That is one such use case for asterisk operator. So let's declare a symbol function here. Let's declare a symbol function here called func, and we'll take 2 arguments, a and b. We'll actually take 4 arguments. So after a and b, we'll pass in asterisk, and then we'll pass in c and d. So now if I just print the a, b, c and d, I can actually print out all of them. Now while executing this function, you have to be careful, because you can actually specify a and b just normally as we do, but with c and d you cannot actually do that. So in this case we are forcefully using keyword arguments. So everything after this asterisk should have a keyword argument. So here I'll actually have to say c is equal to 3 and d is equal to 4, or whatever you want it to, but just make sure you specify it as keyword arguments and not just symbol arguments, just like this, because that will be an error. So if you run this, this will actually be normal, but if I simply pass this as normal arguments, this will actually cause problems. So this will actually cause some problems here. So we have actually seen similar things before. The final thing we actually want to do with asterisks is unpacking. So we have actually seen unpacking before, but this actually this series or this part is actually to highlight the use of asterisk operator. So I'll actually say a function here called func, and I'll actually pass in some arguments a, b and c, and now if I just print a, b and c out, I'll just print out a, b and c, and now instead of actually passing in the arguments directly here, we'll actually get it from a list. So I'll declare a list here called li and give it some values 1, 2, 3, and I can actually pass it using the asterisk operator. I actually do unpacking here using the asterisk operator, and we'll say the list name here. If I just run the program, you can see that it has been printed. This is how you actually pass in a function, I mean a list inside a function. So the one thing you have to actually make sure is the number of items in this list should be equal to the number of arguments. If one is missing, or if we have an extra element, that will actually cause errors. So we can also pass in dictionary as argument. So I can actually say dictionary is, I have to say maybe a is equal to 1. I'll say a is equal to 1. I have to pass that inside quotes, and I can actually say b is 2. I can say c is 3. And now actually to unpack this, we have to use double quotes, since these are all keyword arguments. So we'll actually say dictionary, and now if we run this, we get the result just as normal. So we can use the asterisk operator in this case. So these are all some use cases for asterisk operators. In this tutorial, we'll be talking about copying. So we'll be talking about how we can actually copy mutable elements with built-in copy module, and the difference between shallow and deep copying. So let's get started. So say for an example, I have a variable here called a, and I'll just set it to 1. And if I just want a copy for a, I can say cpy is equal to a. So this will actually not create an original copy, but it will actually create a new variable with the same reference. So since this is an integer, and integers are actually immutable, this will not cause any problem. So I can actually modify this. cpe is equal to maybe 10, and then if I just print copy and print the original a, and if I print a, and if I just run the program, you can see that the original value has still not been modified, because just because this is actually an immutable data type, anyway, this is actually not creating a real copy. So we are actually able to do that. Okay, so now actually let's see what is the difference between a shallow copy and a deep copy. So a shallow copy is only a one-level deep copy and only references of the nested child object. Deep copy is a fully independent copy. I know this is a little bit confusing, but I'll actually make it more clear to you, because when we get into practical, these definitions do not really matter. So now let's actually get into the code. Let's remove this. Now we can see that this was not a problem, but if we actually do something with lists which are actually mutable, so for example, I can say my list, and I'll set it to some numbers. I'll say 1 2 3 4 5, and now if I just try to make a copy, I'll say cpy is equal to my list. We are only referencing it. So now if I modify the copy, so if I just try to modify the first element, I'll change this to 1, and now if I print both the copy and the original list, and if we just run the program, you can see both of them have been modified. Okay, we actually have same here, so let's just modify this, and now if we run the program, you can see both of them actually have been modified. So this is not a real copy actually. So in order to make a real copy, you can actually import the copy module. So we can say import copy. So now we can actually copy it. So to copy this, we can actually say cpy. We can actually modify this a little bit. We can actually say copy is equal to copy dot copy, and we'll copy this my list. Now if we just modify it, and even if we just print it, we see that our original list has not been modified. Since this is actually a list, we can modify this, or we can actually create a copy in multiple ways. So for example, I can say cpy or I can actually say cpy actually is equal to my list dot copy. You can do that. That will actually create a shallow copy, not a deep copy. These are all shallow copies. We'll discuss on deep copies a little bit later. So this will also create a shallow copy. So we can also create another copy. We can actually create a copy in another method. We can actually say copy is equal to list of my list. So this will also create a shallow copy or a copy similar to this. So now we'll actually discuss what is the disadvantage of a shallow copy. So this will all create shallow copies. So we'll just remove this. We only need a copy. So we have this copy and it's a shallow copy. Now let's just modify our list a little bit. So I'll actually add another list 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14, or we'll actually pass it up to 13 and we'll wrap this up in an entirely new list actually. And yeah, let's just run this. Okay, we'll have to put a comma here. Okay, so now actually instead of doing this, we'll modify this a little bit more. So we'll say 0, 1, this is equal to 10. So what we are actually doing here is the 0th element of this my list. This my list itself has actually got two lists inside. So we have two lists or two items inside, and those two items are actually individual list elements. So we have a big list and inside that we have some small lists. So we are actually telling it to access the first list. So in this case, this list will be accessed, and inside that the first element, this is the 0th element and this is the first element. So this 2 will be accessed and that will be modified to 10. So if we run this program, we can see that even though we created a copy, a real copy, it still modified this. It was able to modify this one. So this is where deep copy comes into play. This is where we should be actually using deep copy, because that is what is actually mentioned here. So it is only a one level deep copy. So when we have multiple nested level things, it may not work. So now to actually make a deep copy, we have to actually say we can just say cpy is equal to copy dot deep copy. I have to say deep copy, and now we'll say my list. Now we don't need the shallow copy because we have the deep copy, which is actually much better and which is actually a real copy. So now even if we modify this, we can see that the original list still remains the same. We have the 2 here, but the copy has actually been modified with 10. So this is the difference between the shallow copy and deep copy. So I now think actually you got some basic idea rather than actually reading this definition. When we actually do it practically, I think have a better idea now. So that's all about shallow copy and deep copy in Python. So we have actually discussed a lot of theory stuff until now. So now let's get into practical and build something real. So we are going to actually build a script that is actually going to download videos from YouTube. So yeah, my idea here is to demonstrate the use cases for JSON objects, dictionaries, and maybe threads or multiprocessing to actually speed up things. So we'll be building a project, we'll be building a script that downloads YouTube videos, and that will actually download videos based on our suggestions or based on our search. We can actually download videos, and we can download multiple at the same time. So let's get started. So basically we need actually two main external libraries to do this stuff. First of all, we have to actually search for videos. So we need a library that can actually get the links of our YouTube videos. We can either write them on our own, or we can actually use some pre-built code, some Python libraries to actually do that. So I'll be using some Python libraries to actually get the links, and another Python library to actually download those videos. So the first library that we are going to be needing is called YouTube search Python. So I'll have to import it by saying from YouTube search Python import video search. So before we actually import it, we definitely have to install it. So you can actually install it by going to this pip link. So we'll actually have to search for YouTube search Python and install pip install YouTube hyphen search hyphen Python, and just copy this. And okay, so you just come here, just open up your terminal. I'm using PyCharm here, so I have an inbuilt terminal here. So I'll actually say this, I'll paste this in. I already have it installed, and we also need another library. So just open up any of your browsers and then search for PyTube. This is actually the library that we are going to be using to download videos from YouTube. So you just copy this and you can come into your terminal and paste this, and this will be installed as well. So I have both the libraries installed. Now let's just get started. So first we'll have to get links. We'll have to get links because PyTube actually needs a link to actually download. So to actually get those links, we can use this first library. So let me show you how we can actually do that. So I'll actually declare a variable here called video underscore search, and we'll actually say video search, and we need to specify a couple of arguments here. First of all, we need to specify actually a subject or something that you actually want to search for on YouTube. So I'll actually search for short videos less than 1 minute. Okay, I'm actually searching for this. Because this will actually easily download, and just download it fast because these are short videos and it's actually better. So now we are also going to be passing in an argument called limit, and this is actually the number of videos we actually want based on the subject. So let's say 5 videos, or just say 1 videos in this case, and then we declare another variable. We'll say v is equal to video search dot result. Now let me just print this v here, and if I just run this program, okay, we are actually getting a big dictionary, and we have other dictionaries and lists inside them. So it's very difficult to actually understand this based on this result, but we can actually see that we have some URLs. This is not the video URL, but if we just scroll down a little bit, here, and yeah, we have some YouTube URLs. We only ask for one, so we have a YouTube URL. This is probably some short video. I don't really want to play it. Actually, it may cause copyright or any problems, but yeah, you can see that it's just 47 seconds. And now we actually have to find a way to get this video. So it's really confusing if you just look at here. So I had to take a look at the documentation and see how these things work, how the results are actually printed out, and I actually found out the solution. So this is just for one video. So if we just want to print, if we just ask for 5 here, we'll get 5 URLs. So I'll just loop through them. We need for I in range, and we'll pass in the number as the argument. So in this case we have 1, so we are actually saying 1 here, and then we are actually going to say li is equal to v of result. You can find all these in this big dictionary object. So I just did some other homework and actually figured it out. And then you need an I, and then we need to get the link item from this. So this is how we actually get the link. And now if I simply print the link and just run the program, let's see how it works. Okay, here you can see that we have got a single video URL. We only got the URL, we haven't got any other gibberish unwanted data. So if you just change this to 2 or maybe 3, and you also have to change this to 3 because this should match this. We'll later put this into a function and everything will be organized later. For now, let's just run this. You can see we got 3 URLs and all 3 must be short videos. I don't really want to open it, but if you just open it, it may, most probably these are all short videos, less than 1 minute. So yeah, so now what we are going to do is, let's just put this inside a function. So I'll just say def search video, and then we'll take in some arguments. The first argument is going to be the subject or the search, the thing we actually want to search for, and the second argument is going to be the number of searches we want. So we'll say numbers. So these are the 2 arguments we are actually going to take here. So let's just put everything under this function, and now we'll just replace this. Now we'll just replace this with the subject here. Okay, so this is done. So now if I just execute the function, okay, so we also have to pass in the variable numbers here. So we also have to pass in the variable numbers here. Now let's just execute the function search video and pass in the subject. We can actually pass in any subject for now because we are not downloading anything. So I can simply search for maybe funny videos, and then we can actually pass in the number of links we actually want. So I'll say 5, and if we just run this, so before we actually continue, we'll, instead of printing this out, we'll just append this to a list, and then we'll actually access that list. So let's say items is equal to an empty list, and we'll add items here. So we'll say li dot append, or we'll actually say items dot append and we'll pass in li, and we can actually print out li, or items, we can actually print out the entire list. Okay, finally, before actually running, we have to change a small number of things. For example, I have to change this to number 1, and the variable I actually set it to, or else that will actually cause problems. And now I can actually run this, and yeah, I have a list with all those links here, and we are ready to go. We have the links now. Now we just need to download the videos using another library. So now let's just go for it. Now to actually download stuff, we need the PyTube library. So I'll say from PyTube, we will import YouTube. So now to actually download thing, we can actually do this with just 2 lines of code. So we'll directly declare a function called download videos, and we'll take in an argument called item, because all the individual elements inside those lists are going to be our items. So we have to pass them individually. So now we'll say, so we'll actually say yt is equal to YouTube, the thing we just imported now, and we'll have to actually pass in the item, which is actually the link. Now we'll say dot streams dot filter, and then we'll set the file extension to .mp4, and we'll say dot first dot download, and we'll have to pass in the path to actually download this files. So we'll have to actually pass in the path or a folder or a file or a place where you actually want to store this. So I have actually created a folder in my desktop called vid. This is actually an empty folder now. If you just look at here, you can see that it is in the desktop called vid. So now we just specify the path, and then okay, so our program is almost actually done. So now we just have to actually run this function. So what this will basically do is, first of all, it will actually make sure that the search video, or it will actually search for videos based on the number of links we actually want them to. So we can actually take this as input from the user. So for example, we can use the input function and do that. So we can actually do that fast. So we'll say sub is equal to input. We have to say enter the type of videos to search for, and okay, that's fine. Now we'll actually say num and say input. Okay, so we can simply say enter the number of videos to search for, and I think that should be enough. So we are actually taking this as input from the user. Now we can remove this with sub, and with this with num. So now we can actually run this program, and okay, now actually we have to search for it. Now to actually download this, we have to use the downloads function, but for that we need to actually access the individual elements of this list. So what this will actually do is, so what this entire program will actually do is, first this will execute the search video function, which will actually take input from here, or which will get input from us from here regarding the subject of the video and the number of video we actually want to download, and then it will actually search for the videos, and then it will add this to a list called items. And what we'll do is, we'll have to access the individual elements from that list. So I'll say for item in items, and we'll have to just download all those items. So we'll say download videos of that item. So all those are done. Now we can just run the script, and this will actually work. This is actually asking us for input. So we'll say short videos less than 1 minute. Now we'll actually ask us for the number of videos. So for example, I'll say 3. Okay, so a small issue I had encountered when running the script is that you have to change this to int, because we are accepting numbers here, or else this will actually accept strings. So we have to change this to int. Now everything should work fine, and if we just run the program, It is asking us for the type of videos, and I'll say short videos less than 1 minute, and I'll say 3 videos, and it has actually got that. We have asked this to print this. This is no longer needed. This is no longer needed, so we just comment this out. So now if we just wait here, we'll actually see that the videos will get downloaded. Some videos are already getting downloaded, but this is actually really slow. So I have actually just stopped the program. We can use threads to actually speed this up a little bit, but this can also depend upon other factors like your internet speed and but we'll get a speed up. So now what we have to actually do is we have to replace a couple of things. First of all, we have to actually import threads. So we are not importing the normal threading module. We are actually going to use the concurrent futures module. So we'll say import concurrent dot futures. This will actually import the concurrent futures module. And now we have to just remove this. We don't need this. We'll say with concurrent dot futures dot thread pool executor as executor. We'll say executor dot we are going to actually use the map function, executor dot map, and we will actually pass in the function which is download videos without executing it, and we'll also pass in our list as argument. So I'll say items, and now this will actually take out all the items from this list and will actually apply as argument for this video or this function. So this should actually work if we just run the program. Okay, first of all, I'm going to actually clear out all the videos here. So we'll say the same thing. And I'll actually do for 5 videos. Okay, threads aren't actually going to guarantee you enough speeds, but since this is an IO bound task, it can actually give you some speed ups. But if you want real speed ups, you may have to use the multiprocessing module. But this should give you some sort of speed up, but this can also depend upon a lot of other factors. Okay, you can see that 2 of them have been okay. This only the download has been started. Okay, 3 of them have been actually started downloads. So while the program actually sleeps, it's actually executing it again. So yeah, my internet speed is not really good, so this can still take time, but this is actually a lot more faster. Okay, the 4th one is getting ready. Okay, so yep, all the downloads have been completed. This is actually a lot more, or it's actually a lot better compared to the normal functions. So this actually downloaded things much better. So I actually demonstrated here a couple of things. First of all, threads. So we have actually learned a couple of things here. The first and the most important one was how to actually use threads on a real practical project, and you can actually replace this with multiprocessing as well. You just have to change this thread pool executor to process pool executor, and now we have multiprocessing. You can do this as well. This may give you some real speed up. So the next thing we actually learned is how to actually parse or how to actually extract data from a large dictionary object or JSON object, because this is how you actually typically receive information from APIs and things like that. So you'll have to parse or extract information from such big dictionaries. So we have actually discussed about this here. So this actually was a small project to demonstrate all these things. Hello everyone. So in this video we'll be building an application, a project based on some of the things we learned before. So the application we are actually going to build is a password generator, a strong password generator. So a strong password is considered something that is maybe 8 to 12 characters long, and it is actually a mixture of numbers, letters, and special characters. It is not easily guessable, or it cannot be easily cracked. So if you just go to online, if you just search for password generators, or if you actually search for strong password generators, we have a lot of them. Like this first one, we have a lot of online tools, online utilities that can help us generate strong passwords. So this will actually generate strong passwords for us, and with all these special symbols, numbers, lower case letters and higher case letters as well. So there are a lot of utilities that you can actually use, but we are actually going to build a custom one in Python. So we are actually going to be building something with the random module. I've actually got an entire video or an entire tutorial on the random module in Python. It's a really useful module. So although in the documentation of the random module, it is recommended that you shouldn't use it for cryptographic functions or for doing such things like password generation, but we still can use it to generate pretty strong passwords. So there are other Python libraries that can be used to generate strong passwords. If you just Google for it, you will actually get it. If you just search for strong password generator Python library or something, you'll have a lot of them. So for example, if you just Google it, you get a random password generator 2.2.0. These all are Python libraries. There may be more, I'm not sure. So yeah, there are a lot of them that you can actually use to generate strong passwords, but we'll be exploring the random module. So let's close everything, and okay, so let's actually start by importing the random module. So I'll say import the random module, and this comes with the standard Python library, so you don't have to install anything. So now what we are actually going to do is we are actually declaring a variable here called max length. So we'll actually be setting the length of the password here. So a strong password is more than 8 characters long, so we'll consider, or we'll actually set it to 12 characters here. We can later change this if we want. So now what we actually need is we need a list. We need some list of all the numbers and alphabets and special symbols, such things. We need lists of all of them. So I'll just declare a list of digits. I'll say digits is equal to, and we are actually going to declare some digits here. So 0 1 2 3. So we have actually got all the digits here from 0 to 9. So you may be wondering why we have actually put this inside this codes here. This is nothing. We are actually considering them as strings for now, because we may later need to add or concatenate something, so that may cause issues in the future. These are all strings, even though these are numbers, but in Python these are strings because we have used those codes there. Now we need the lowercase letters or lowercase letters. We'll say lowercase letters, and we need a similar list. So I am actually not going to write every one of them. I have already defined it. I already have set it. So I have pre-built something. So now I have a list of all the lowercase letters. Now the same thing goes with the uppercase letters. I have a list of all the uppercase letters. So yeah, I'm actually just copy pasting this just because typing this could actually take a long time. So yeah, these are just nothing. These are list of all those lowercase and uppercase letters. Now we need symbols or special characters. So things like these, this can actually make our password stronger and difficult to crack. Okay, so we have declared the maximum length. We have a list or a list of all the letters and all the symbols, numbers, such things. So now what we are actually going to do is we'll combine everything, or we'll actually add everything. So we'll say combined list is equal to its digits plus lowercase letters plus uppercase letters, uh, uppercase characters plus symbols. For now, just don't worry about this. We'll actually discuss what this is actually for after a few steps. So now if we just look at here, we have four lists with digits, lowercase letters, uppercase letters and symbols. So the first step we are actually going to do, we actually need 12 letters, right? We need 12 letters in our password. So our password should be of 12 characters. So now to actually get that 12, what we'll actually do first is we'll randomly pick an item from all these lists. So from each of these lists we'll pick one random item. So we'll say rand digit, we'll pick up a random digit, and we'll say we'll use the random module, we'll use the random.choice method. This will actually pick a random number from the list of these numbers. So we'll pass in the digit variables here. What this will do is this will actually pick up a random number, and now we are actually going to say rand, instead of the rand digit we'll actually say rand upper, and this should be equal to the random dot choice, and we'll pass in the uppercase letters here. So this will randomly pick an uppercase character. Now we'll do the same with the lowercase. We'll just copy paste this and we'll change this to lower. We'll say random.case and we'll pass in the lowercase letters. Now once again we need to pick another thing. We actually have to say random symbols, and we'll pick one random symbol as well. So now all this 4 line of code is doing is this is actually randomly picking numbers or randomly picking characters from each of these lists. And so now what we actually are going to do is we will declare a variable here called temppass, and what we'll do is we'll combine everything. We'll say rand digit plus rand upper plus rand lower plus rand symbol. So what we have done here is we have picked up 4 characters for our password here. Out of 12 we have 4 already. Now we just need to figure out the remaining. So if I just print the temppass for now, we'll see what the result is. Let's print the temppass, and if we just run this program, we have 4 unique characters, or we have a combined string of characters picked randomly from this list. And now we have 4 of them, but that's not enough because we need 12 of them to make the password stronger. So to actually do that, what we'll actually do is let's use a for loop. I'll say for x in range, we'll use the range function, and we'll say max length minus 4, because we have already got 4 characters, so the max length in this case is 12. So 12 minus 4, we need 8 more remaining characters. So now we'll actually need this combined list. Now what we'll do is, since we already have these 4 passwords in our hand, we need the remaining 8 passwords. So for that, we'll randomly pick them from this combined list, which is actually a combination of all the lists. So I can actually simply say temp_pass is equal to temp_pass. We are overwriting that variable here, so we'll say temp_pass plus random dot choice, and inside this we'll have to pass in the combined list. We are randomly choosing from that combined list. So we have a kind of a temporary password here now, but we are actually not sure if this is strong enough, because there can be repetition. Since we are actually using the random module, we can get repeated items. So what we are basically doing in these two lines is we are just looping over 8 times. So max length minus 4, we are actually looping over 8 times, and in that 8 time we are actually picking random elements from this combined list, which is actually a combination of all these lists. So that's what we are actually doing. Okay, so now we need to do something. We need to convert this temp pass, or this temporary password, into an array and shuffle it, so that even if we have some same elements, they will be shuffled, and it will make it more complex. So it's actually pretty simple. Import array, it's really easy to actually do. So to actually shuffle this, we'll say temp pass list. We'll declare a new variable, temp pass list is equal to array dot array of we have to say u here, and then we have to pass in the temp pass variable. So what this is actually doing is, this is simply converting this string into an array. So we can actually shuffle it. We can actually shuffle an array by saying random dot shuffle. We have a dot shuffle method, and we can actually pass in the temp pass list. Here we are just converting this into an array, and here we are actually just shuffling it just to make it stronger. Now let's get out of the loop, and we'll just declare a variable here called password and set it to an empty string. We'll add all the necessary items later. So now we have to say for x in temp pass list, and we'll say password is equal to password plus x. So what we are actually doing here is, we have a password variable here which is actually currently empty. So and the password is in this variable called temporary pass list. So to actually add this to this password variable, we are simply traversing through it using the for loop, and then we are actually appending it to this string. So this is actually pretty simple. This is just adding everything from this variable to this variable called password, so we can actually simply print it out. And finally, since everything is done, we can simply print using a formatted loop. We can use a formatted string. We can say your random password is, and we'll actually, inside this curly braces, we'll pass in the password variable. Now this should be good to go. And if we run the program, we should get a random password. So yeah, we have got our first random password. Your random password is cb percentage, and we have a complex password with items inside. We can run it again, we'll get a new password. This is also pretty complex. If we just keep on running it, we'll get new passwords. So I'll explain this program once again. We are just importing random, and we are also importing array. We are setting the max length or length of the password to be 12 for now. We can change it if you want, you can change it to 8. And then we have some list with digits, lowercase letters, uppercase letters, and symbols, and we are just combining those lists here. And then we are actually getting 4 characters for the password. So we are getting an item from all the lists, we are getting one item from all the lists, and then we are just combining it into a variable called temporary password. And then what we are actually doing it to get the remaining 8 items, we are just using those combined list, the list here, this combined list. We are actually getting items from it randomly using the random.choice method, and then we are just adding into an array, or we are actually converting it into an array, and we are just shuffling it just to make sure that the password is random and strong. And then we are actually declaring an empty variable here called password, and then we are traversing through it using the for loop, and finally we are appending it to the to this variable called password, and then we print it out. So this is actually a simple program. I just wanted to demonstrate the random module. You can do a lot of things with the random module, so this is one among them. So this is everything about the random module. I hope you actually understood the project. I hope you learned something new. Okay guys, we are concluding our topics, we are concluding our course. So I hope you learned something, and I hope you can actually now work with different concepts like multiprocessing, threading, and such things. I hope you understood them. I hope this course was a fun journey for you. You should actually try out this different concepts we actually discussed in real life projects. I have demonstrated a few real life projects. You can actually try a lot of them. We can actually turn a lot of complex tasks into simpler ones using Python and different advanced concepts we discussed. By the end of the course, I hope that you actually can write better code now. So I wish you all the luck for your future, and I hope you learned something throughout this course, and I hope that it will be useful for you, and I wish you all the luck. Thank you.